Dax Harwood, would you like to make that announcement?
I guess so. So when we started this podcast, we just wanted to do good for wrestling. I was looking forward to, and I still do, and I still did, looking forward to bringing my thoughts on psychology, in-ring action, what I thought was good wrestling, my love for Bret Hart, and break down some of the things that we had done in our career and some of our biggest moments. Never in a million years. I knew that we would probably ruffle a few feathers, and I think,
we were playing on some feather ruffling, but
and
bad,
I know that I can, but I wanted to read a text really quick from Dan from Cash, and I asked him. I said, "Do you mind if I read this on the show?" And he said, "Absolutely not." Sorry, I have to look it up, but
as you look it up, go ahead and if you get on Twitter, look up Cash's recent tweets about everything. He's really got a way with words.
Yeah. So he sent me a text after the tweets from Saturday morning. He was checking on me to make sure everything was okay. And he said, I told him what was going on. He said, "That sucks, man. I'm sorry, brother." He said, "But I want you to know history is going to remember all this very differently when it's all said and done. By the time we're retired and set, the truth will come out and you'll be one of the ones people respect for actually being transparent and honest." And add to that, I said, "You have more integrity than pretty much anyone else in wrestling and are one of the few not afraid to speak the truth without hiding behind a source." And that to me meant more to me than almost anything else we've ever had in our, 10-year friendship. Because that's it, man. I, to a fault, have stood up for what I believe in. And to a fault, I speak my truth. Never, like I said before, have I pointed out or singled out one person and talked shit about them except for Road Dogg. I did, but I felt like I owed him that. And I could be wrong. I probably didn't. I probably should have just not said a word, but that's just not how I operate. I had an opportunity to spill my heart of how he made me feel and how he made me feel so minuscule and so small. I had to let people know. Other than that, I never have talked bad about anyone that I worked with.
Poor Cassio.
Oh yeah, well, speaking of that, now we can tell him it was all a work.
Yeah. Cassio, we love you, man.
Yeah,
you know that.
I was never mad at you.
Dax wasn't really that mad at you.
Our plan was to work you and then see you in real life, and then me buy you a drink, but we never got to that.
Really, when we look back at this, and I've had conversations today with people about this, I can't really think of anything on the podcast that's been said or done that was mean-spirited or even worth apologizing for, quite honestly.
Nope. The only thing I should apologize for is how the journalists and the news sites took a section of something I said and made it seem like I was such a bad human being. And I want to apologize to not only my fans. Oh God, I'm getting emotional. I don't want to just apologize to my fans. I want to apologize to the people who already didn't like me and fans of, for example, the Young Bucks and fans of Kenny Omega, fans of MJF, or anybody else who I may have upset. I want to apologize to them because I never wanted you to hate me so much, that you would say some of the things you said to me. And going into this podcast, I never thought that would happen. And I hate that it happened. And again, like I told you earlier in the show, I thought I was way more mentally tough than I am, but I admit that I'm not. And I don't think that I can handle some of the things that are said. I also don't know if I want my daughter 10 years from now to read some of the things that are said about me.
Right.
But ultimately, we all wanted to do good for wrestling, right? And you and I. And I don't think that this podcast, as much as we tried, dude, as hard as we tried, I don't think the podcast was reflecting that for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't think maybe it was good for wrestling, and it sucks. But I do want to clear up a couple of things. AEW did not ask Dax or pressure me or anybody to stop the podcast.
Well, we haven't even announced it yet. That was the first time we said it. So there you go.
This is it, guys. This is the last episode. And,
there we go.
And before we, finalize everything real quick and talk about it just a second, AEW did not pressure anybody. Tony Khan did not pressure anybody. Dax and I haven't had a falling out.
Oh, God, no.
This was right. Any of those other things, we're not so upset by the trolls that were leaving. We're not so upset at Alvarez and Meltzer, whoever that were leaving. We really just don't feel good about the fact that what we're doing is hurting wrestling or hurting AEW, this company that's trying to make the wrestling world a better place, like it or not. A lot of our fans, a lot of our listeners, our old school listeners that don't like AEW, but I'm telling you, I've been a supporter from the start because I think it's something that can help professional wrestling. And we love wrestling. We love the fans. We love the wrestlers in it. And we flew kind of close to the sun, and we really thought, hey, we can just talk about modern stuff. And apparently that we made life difficult for some people, and we didn't want to do that at all.
Yep. And I don't mean just the people that I worked with. Those are some of the people. But people that I used to work with, fans, I feel like we kind of made life more difficult for them because there are a lot of fans, myself included when I was a fan, where their life did almost revolve around wrestling because they loved it so much. And I was the same way as a kid. And I think we both feel that we were causing more harm than good, even though we were trying to do good. It just didn't come across that way. And I guess we didn't portray it that way. We were more of a detriment to professional wrestling than we thought. And we never wanted to be that.
No. And maybe we could have, but that's not the way that our brains operate. Like my brain operates like you do the right thing. You keep your words, thoughts, and actions consistent, and you don't worry about the results. You're kind of the same way. You're like, I'm going to speak up for my friend who I love, but we don't think about the ramifications because we're like, if you do the right thing, everything will work out. And that's kind of, a lot of times that's just television stuff, like it doesn't necessarily always work out like that.
And always, not all the time. A lot of the times doing the right thing is not perceived as doing the right thing. And sometimes what we perceive to be the right thing is not the right thing. And I think
totally subjective, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think you and I towed that line and we towed it too much. And being a detriment to wrestling fans, to coworkers, people who used to be my coworkers, don't want that. People that I respect, people that I love, dude, I got Cash so much heat for because I said CM Punk was my friend and I wanted to wrestle with him. I got Cash heat, and I don't want that. He doesn't deserve that. I don't deserve that. Punk doesn't deserve that. No one deserves that. And it was all because of me. And so now I think the best course of action is to just stop the podcast. And I always said I wanted to leave wrestling, as cliche as it sounds, as like I always say, I wanted to leave wrestling better than I found it. And I felt that Cash and I were on our way there. And I think this was a bump in the road. And I'm not saying I will never do this again because I loved it. I loved this was something I looked forward to doing every day. Yeah. It took me away from real life. I was able to express my passion, my love, my gratuity, or gratitude to wrestling, and a way I'd never been able to. And now I can't do that. So it sucks, but it's something that I think it's a mature decision on both of our parts. And I think it's something we have to do.
We're not saying it's gone forever. Like we might come back in a little bit, or we might not come back at all, or a few months. But I will say that Dax Harwood, the idea of Dax Harwood doing a podcast and being on TV every week and being current, talking about current stuff, is an awesome idea. But at the same time, Dax Harwood has 4 years left of a contract of being a professional wrestler. He has 50 years left, hopefully, to do podcasts. So we're going to really, that's the number one thing is focusing on the Dax Harwood, the real life Dax Harwood, and the things that really matter as far as keeping the career going good, doing the things you need to do for your wife and your family, and the podcast being a small part of that. But we don't want to underestimate how much people enjoyed it and how much people listened to it. And all you folks who are out there who, for someone like me who's had a few podcasts, this one hit hard, guys. And I can't personally thank you enough. Everybody's so supportive. I got a little bit of that FTR rub where people just love y'all. And it came over to me, and I can't thank you enough, Dax. But dude, mostly the listeners. And we're not dismissing your wants or your views. We're glad you listen. We're so glad you listen. And it's, it's a successful podcast. It's doing great because of y'all.
Dude, I think one of the most rewarding moments, there's multiple moments, but one of the most rewarding moments of my life is going to these meet and greets, having people come up to me, hugging me, and I told you this, crying to me and saying how much my podcast has helped their life or helped their anxiety issues or takes them away from what their real life might be at the current moment. And that's the thing that sucks the most is I'm not going to be able to provide that for people anymore. And I hate that. But in the same token, I think that I can't go on knowing that I'm causing any kind of anguish to anybody. I don't want that.
We talked about this before about off air, about being better to people than they are to us, and so we have plenty of opportunity to say, oh, it's this guy's fault or that guy's fault, but it's our fault. That's the best way to go through things, is to say the accountability is with us, and we had an awesome time. Man, we're going to look back fondly on this era of the podcast. And I hope you had a good time as well, Dax. It did add some negativity into your world and also into the wrestling world. We did not mean for that to happen, but we want to leave y'all with some positivity and just know that we hope everybody in wrestling does well.
Absolutely. And real quick, FTR with Dax Harwood may be over, but I ain't done with you, dude. You and I are friends. We could start a variety show. We could do a late night talk show. There's so many ideas we could do. I ain't done with you by a long shot. Let's put it like that.
This is a great friendship, dude. We're very different on the surface, but we're so similar in so many ways. We appreciate the same things. And also, I have some opportunities coming up, so I'm not done podcasting for sure.
Hell yeah.
And hopefully we can get some news on that when it happens. But Dax Harwood, as a podcast partner, to do this with your friend is fucking awesome, and it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, dude. It's my pleasure, and I hope that I, for the last 4 or 5 months, at least, enlightened your Sundays recording.
Absolutely. Guys, we'll see you soon somewhere, somehow. And thank you, everybody, for listening to FTR with Dax Harwood.
Say